If I was to ask you what the longest film you had ever seen was, you would probably say Titanic, or The Godfather, Lord of the Rings, or this crap. All of these films are around the 3-hour mark, which I'm sure most people would agree is the longest a film should be. 3 hours out of your day to watch a film is quite a big time commitment, and most films have the logic to realise this. If your story is going to be any longer than that, then maybe take the Dune or Kill Bill approach and split your story into 2. I've always said to myself that I wanted to watch the longest film ever made, but until recently I never really looked into what that was. At this point I realised that finding the longest movie ever made was much harder than I expected. Every website seemed to have a different answer. I saw a film called The Innocents pop up a couple of times. This film has only ever been released in select Bangladesh theatres. All I could find was a couple of YouTube trailers which honestly don't even look that bad. So unless there's ever an online release, I can't watch it. And then I found Béla Tarr's 1994 drama, Sátántangó, running at a whopping 7.5 hours long. I actually remembered seeing this film a long time ago, being praised as one of the greatest films of all time. As far as I can tell, Sátántangó is the 5th longest single cinematic film of all time. So it might not be the longest film ever like what I set out looking for, but 7.5 hours for a film is still way longer than the previous longest film I had ever seen, being The Godfather 2. And so I watched it, every single minute of it, and it almost killed me. So you may be thinking, a film of 7.5 hours must have a lot of things happening, right? I mean, 7 hours is a very long time for a film. Well, the Sátántangó's story is kinda strange. Strange in the fact that it could easily be cut down to 3, maybe even 2 hours, and not a whole lot would change. And how is that, you might ask? Now let me just show you the first scene in this film. Eight minutes. 8 minutes of a single shot of cows walking. And it's nearly the length of a whole episode of Adventure Time. This perfectly captures the absolute drab atmosphere this entire film would have. It doesn't trick you or anything. This opening is a warning of what you're about to get into. And I guess if that 1 8-minute shot was it, and then we're off to an insane story, that would be alright. Except this theme of lingering shots for way, way longer than they need to be continued throughout the entire film. So much of it just wasn't needed in the slightest, and it really confuses me why they didn't shorten a lot of these scenes by full minutes. It felt like every single shot in this film was over 5 minutes, and sometimes it was just ridiculous. Now let me show you a scene from towards the beginning of this film. Just staring at a wall for what feels like ages with basically nothing happening at all. Oh, by the way, that was just a section of that scene. It goes on way longer than that. And this is the film's major issue, and the only reason it's over 7 hours long. Every time I got invested into the story and its characters, it was ruined by a completely pointless long shot which adds absolutely nothing to the story. It actually baffled me at times. Things that could easily be communicated to an audience in 30 seconds are instead minutes on end. There is no reason to show people walking for 5 minutes. I get it after 10 seconds that they're walking somewhere. I don't need to see it for this long. Please, just end! The average 2-hour film has well over 1,000 shots in it. This 7.5-hour film has 150. Doing some maths, that means on average every single shot is nearly 3 minutes. As I started watching it, I found it quite funny how long some of these shots lingered for, but as it went on and on, it wasn't funny anymore. This film has only just started and I've just been staring at cows for the last 2 minutes. Like, it's just going to be one of those films where it's that long because it just unnecessarily holds the shot for as long as it can. I swear to God, if this whole film is just this. To describe the story of Sátántangó would be quite the challenge. The film is split into 12 parts. each one mainly focusing on a singular character or a group of characters. And let me tell you, a couple of these, I'm just going to call them chapters, take the absolute mess. The third chapter focuses on a character called the Doctor, a drunken, lonely man, and for a full hour we see him sit, walk around his house a bit, and go outside, and then walk to a pub and passes out after chasing a girl, who we will definitely come back to later. Now, if what I've just told you sounds fine enough, then just remember that all of this happens in a full hour, not 5 minutes, 1 hour. And then there's chapter 6, this one nearly killed me. There is one scene in this part of the film that is 10 minutes of dancing. Just dancing. 10 minutes, one shot. I fell asleep at the beginning of this scene, and then I woke up 7 minutes later and they were still dancing. I actually couldn't even believe it. It has no reason to continue after 20 seconds. I just can't understand it, honestly. So yeah, some of these chapters were a pain to sit through. The first 6 chapters basically all happen simultaneously, with the last 6 being the aftermath. It doesn't exactly follow a traditionally structured story, but here is my overall summary. The story follows a group of Hungarian villagers who have been rendered useless and impoverished by the government. This whole film is made to feel as dull and lifeless as it possibly can be, and let me tell you, they bloody succeed. These people lazy on through life, mostly in a drunken state, children are left in seclusion without help, and I mean, just look at these buildings. It literally looks like one of those abandoned farms you drive past through the countryside. The setting is awful. It suffers from Seven syndrome, where it rains for the whole film, leaving the floor constantly muddy. You just look at this film and think, ew. And I must admit, the setting used is fantastic, and really highlights the hopelessness of all of these villagers. They don't have a purpose. You know what else doesn't have a purpose? Watching 10 minutes of dancing. Seriously, what a stupid scene. Anyway, let's look at the characters. Now's probably a good time to mention that I am probably going to pronounce every character's name completely wrong. Starting with Irimas? I'm going to call him Irimas. He is the best, and no one can change my mind. He's a bit of a strange one, but then again, everyone in this film is. And the main story focuses around him. Thought to be dead by the whole village, Irimas returns with his mate Irimas. It's Irimas, isn't it? Irimas throughout the film is presented much like a king to these village people. He convinces them to give up their life savings to him. He's just a master manipulator, making himself known by the whole village. Except the drunk doctor. He's in hospital most of the film. Irimas has basically enslaved the whole village by the end, getting them to do his chores, and they do it because they're completely and utterly begging for anything to give them a reason. They know there's a chance that what he's doing is not in their favour, but they take the risk anyway because to them, it makes them feel useful. I discovered many theories about what this story is all about, and one of them surrounds the religious theme the movie seems to hinge on. At the beginning of the film, Irimas is thought to be dead by everyone in the village, but then appears out of the blue one day. Resurrected, you could say. Irimas gives hope to the people who are otherwise hopeless, except this isn't his intention, and Irimas is really using his newfound power to steal what he wants. Irimas could actually represent the devil hiding in plain sight. The name of the film, Satantango, literally has the word Satan in it. Or the name could just be from the Satan's Tango dance. You know, from that 10-minute dance scene. Except, is that really the theme this movie seems to be going with? There are hints of spiritual significance throughout the whole film. Take for example the drone-sounding ringing of church bells. It's a weird theme, and always when it happens you're left wondering, what the hell was that? At the beginning of the film, villager Fataki is awakened by this sound. Irimas also is disturbed by the sound a couple of times, causing him to actually express anger. Could this be due to his satanic-like character being physically affected by the church bells of God? Well, probably not. You see, at the end of the film, the Doctor, of all people, discovers something rather important as he finds the source of the distant noise. It turns out the church bells were due to a crazed madman at the bottom of the bell tower. This noise was nothing more than a crazy man with a metal rod. And this is where I believe the film purposely makes a statement that there is no underlying narrative of a spiritual significance, or any significance for that matter. All of these characters are simply a product of their environment. After being cast away by the government, living in constant boredom, and that is that. In reality, Eremias is nothing more than an average con man. He isn't the devil, he's just a human. We are just following people and their miserable lives. And I don't think there's anything more to it than that. This religious theme is a cool theory, but I feel like by the end, it's purposely stated that it's nothing more than a theory.
A film theory!
Now, from my description, you probably don't think this film sounds all that bad. Oh, did I mention that it has a runtime of 7.5 hours? It really annoys me because there is so much I love about this film. From its characters, story, impressive visuals, and perfect setting. But it's just ruined by its stupid length. You really have to see it to believe it. To be honest, it wasn't until the last 3 hours where I really started to feel the drag of time. Its use of long shots must have tricked my brain into thinking that, because not much has happened, not much time must have passed. As the night turned day, I continued the film on my iPad and went downstairs for breakfast. And wow, it just all hit me at once that I had spent nearly 6 hours watching practically nothing take place on my TV. And well, with how dizzy I was, I can't believe I didn't fall down the stairs, to be honest. A film needs stakes or something, but this film's stakes are constantly so incredibly low that most of the time I couldn't give less of a damn. Even having a long shot every now and again would be fine. In fact, sometimes they do genuinely add something to the movie, making you think and feel what the characters are feeling, but when you do that in literally every single scene, for me it just makes it all feel meaningless. I don't know, maybe people just like watching paint dry for a whole day. But there is something in this film that I actually think is fantastic. That being the film's 5th and 7th chapter. They kind of go as a pair. It's very messed up what goes down, but I'll just say animals were very much harmed during the making of this film. Yeah, that's a real cat. Don't worry though, she gets what's coming to her in the end. So, Sátántangó. Is it worth a watch? No, absolutely not.